Immortal, rapper, author, songwriter, recording artist, and performer from Crystal City, Missouri. I'm president and CEO of Mo Ill Records that I established in 2010. Let's get started. This is a message to America. A message to America, and I hope everybody pays attention. First, I want to ask the people of America this question. Do you find it very odd and peculiar for a person that was elected to swear, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States of America to make our world safer, and to keep a relationship with our allies? Do you find it very, very peculiar of the things that this person is doing? Let's start off real quick. First off, he tried to say that former President Barack Obama was not born in this country. He wanted to prove to us that he was. They thought that the man was born in a Middle Eastern country or wherever he came from. So they try to deny our president's heritage of where he comes from. Number two, Russian collusion. Every time Mr. Trump is questioned about Russia, he always says there's no collusion, there's no collusion, there's no collusion. Okay, so he lies about that. You got his son, Donald Trump Jr., Paul Manafort, that has been convicted by the FBI, Rick Gates, George Papadopoulos, that was charged with lying to the FBI, Jared Kushner, all these other people meeting with Russia operatives in Trump Tower in New York City in June or July of 2016, before the election started. He lies about that. He talks about people of different races, different religions, talking about they want to ban the Muslims from coming here. They think that Muslims, every Muslim that walks this earth, is a bad person or is a terrorist. You know, they're labeling these people. Not only that, he talks about saying that the people that come from Africa, Nigeria, and Haiti, and the Caribbeans, and South America, all the black nations or people of color where they come from, he calls them shithole countries. And then these countries are asking us, basically in a roundabout way, do we have an issue with those countries? First and foremost, America has always stood upon freedom first, democracy, when really, in all retrospect, America was built on a republic, not a democracy. And sometimes people get policy and racism as two separate things. But if you look at policy and racism, they go contrast and hand to hand, and they have a lot of similarities to it. The reason why I say there's a big uh, uh, connection with racism and policy is because they want to still keep us as black Americans under the jurisdiction of United States court, meaning that those that, like Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King, and those who have fought for civil rights, meaning that we would still be protected under United States court, which is completely very, very disturbing and very, very troubling for the people that have fought for equal rights, equal protection under the law. But the President of the United States is supposed to ensure equal protection under the law. He is the main law enforcer. So he lied about Russia. He says that the Mexicans are rapists. They're bringing in drugs. They're bringing in crime. He also talked about grabbing women inappropriately by the vagina. And just all the things that he's doing. So don't you find it very, very peculiar that a person who was elected to office to act the way that he acts? To me, he's just nothing but a reality TV show, game show host that occupies the highest seat in the western part of the hemisphere, in the free world, in the western world, holds the highest office in the world, and he is acting like that. He tweets every day. He talks about Hillary Clinton. He's always talking about President Barack Obama. He degrades people that have mental illness. He talked about the people of Puerto Rico. He talks about Haitians saying that they have AIDS. Why are we letting a lot of them in here? And then just a couple days ago, he had the Norwegian president and basically said that we need more immigrants, that people that look like you, to come into this country. I find that very, very troubling, and dissatisfied by our American principles. If this is what the country is stands for over 450 years, why are the GOP and the Republicans allowing this idiot in the White House to continue to keep saying the things that he wants to do? And if you're a Republican out there, aren't you kind of questioning, like, man, this is not how I don't want this person to represent our party. You know what I'm saying? It's bad enough that he endorsed Roy Moore, which I was so glad that Alabama Senator Mr. Doug Jones, I'm glad that he won. But you got to look at, birds of a feather flock together. And this president or this person that's in the White House is completely unstable. He is unfit to lead this country. Talking about the people of heritage. Does he not realize that the people who came to this country were immigrants, that were slaves, that helped build this country, that helped build the same White House that he is occupying right now? And if you look at the term White House, you look at all of the presidents, George Washington, John Adams, Benjamin Franklin, Thomas Jefferson, all these people were slave owners. And in some states, or in some cases, they would have to have sex with the slave woman before the man on the plantation can even marry the woman. So America's history has not always been clean. And there's a big difference. There's not a big difference, excuse me, between racism and policy. They're trying to make it political. They're trying to politicize this whole ordeal. This person has talked about the black players in the NFL, like Colin Kaepernick and many others, that have took a knee in protest against Trump because he's a supremacist and he's a fascist bigot, and with police brutality. Just a couple nights ago in Little Rock, Arkansas, a young black teenager was killed at the hands of a white police officer. And just because I talk about racism does not make me a racist. There are people in the Ku Klux Klan and the Nazis and all these other different hate groups that say, when they're questioned about their position in these groups, the first thing they'll say is not a racist. I'm not a racist because of the groups that I'm a part in. Let me tell you something. This is a message to America. Are you satisfied with the way a sitting president is acting? He is insulted men, women, children with disabilities, people that are not from this country. He talks about Muslims. He degrades women. He lies about the whole Russia collusion, which Special Counsel Robert Mueller, obviously, because why would they waste their time investigating something that wasn't there? And I get sick and tired of people on CNN and MSNBC calling this person the president. That's a mistake right there. They don't need to call him a president because he's not acting like that. You know what I'm saying? He has reneged on every promise that he has said that he was going to do during the campaign up until 2018. So for almost a year, they've been investigating his ties with Russia. He lied about his connection and his relationship with Vladimir Putin, saying that he didn't know him. But if you look at previous tapes from back in 2009, 2010, Vladimir Putin and Trump were just like this. They're bosom buddies. So they're lying about that. I truly believe that the reason why that the Republicans are not acting so hastily on trying to get him impeached is because they were so pissed off at President Obama for 8 years that he was elected by the people to do 2 terms. And even when he was in office, the Republicans still had control of the House and the Senate. And they did not want to pass any bills that President Barack Obama wanted to put into law. They did not want to work with him because the man was black. They had secret meetings because they did not want to work with him just because who the man was. They try to say that he wasn't born here, even though his mother was from Kansas and his father is from Kenya. They try to say that he wasn't born here. This president, this person that's in the office right now, is a neo-fascist, racist bigot. And why are people defending him still when they know that these things are true? They sit up there and say stuff like he said yesterday, talking about people that aren't from America, that were born in Nigeria, Africa, Egypt, the Middle Eastern countries, the Caribbeans, Mexico, Central America, South America, shithole countries. What does that do to the diplomacy that America is trying to settle in the rest of the world? What does that do to our relationship with our friends and our allies around the world, like NATO and all these other different countries that we helped during World War II, when it was a much more dangerous time, when Adolf Hitler was in office and he was killing the European Jews? What does that say about our relationship with them? It doesn't say a whole lot about us as a country. And frankly, we are still stuck in the past of Jim Crow. It's not like that Jim Crow laws have ever died. On the weekend of our beloved celebrated, a person who stood for was a champion for freedom and equality, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Today, Trump had signed a law into office, acknowledging that Martin Luther King, with the a proclamation of Martin Luther King Day. But this person yesterday said was talking about the immigrants, black people and brown people, people that look like me, saying we come from shithole countries. And then he turns around and meets with a group of black people, smiling, chuckling and laughing, everything like that. But was asked by April Ryan, a news reporter, are you a racist, or are you going to make a comment about what you said about shithole countries? Man, he wanted to get out of there like 44 West. He did not want to be asked about what he said. He said something and then he denies it. Just like when he's asked about Russia, he's always denying things about Russia. When they ask him about his business dealings, uh, you know, and for people to say that he's racially ignorant versus him being racist is totally false, because he is a racist. You can see it. He didn't condemn the people, the supremacist groups, the Nazi supremacist groups in Charlottesville, Virginia over the summer. He did not condone them at all. He basically said that they were fine people. And then he turns around and says that he didn't say anything about the shithole countries. But Representative Dick Durbin, who's a Democrat from Illinois, he heard him, as well as Lindsey Graham, a Republican from South Carolina. But he turns around and he does not want to admit what he says. So my question is to America, do you think that this is how a president should act? Do you think that a president that watches TV and drinks Diet Cokes and eat fast food, and it has only passed one bill into law, which is still going to benefit the one percenters, i.e. the billionaires and people on Wall Street and everything, the same thing that he criticized former presidential candidate Hillary Clinton of, he's doing the same thing, padding the pockets of the rich, wealthy people in this country that own more than the 99 percenters. It's a shame in America. It's a dangerous time in America, to where I feel that we have been compromised by a foreign government who has the capacity of overtaking us. But the American people are sitting back and they're thinking it's okay. Do you actually think that this is how a president is supposed to act? I mean, think about it. The summary of it is to me, he is clearly unfit for office and he needs to be impeached. And I pray that special counsel Robert Mueller finds out more details about what this man is doing. And I truly believe over the weekend, while he's retreating to his Mar-a-Lago, Florida home, I truly believe that the Russia investigation, something big is going to happen this weekend, because they're keeping track of all the things that he's tweeting, all the things that he's talking about. He insults people of color. He's a racist. He's a strong believer in the Jim Crow system, and even black people that are Republicans. It seems like that they're still defending him. If you're black in America, how can you be a Republican, knowing of what your ancestors fought for? And you're going to stand up for the party of racism that have more race, that has socialist, fascist ties? How can you be black in America and be a Republican? I just don't understand that. But a message to America, do you actually think that this is how a president is supposed to act? I myself, I truly don't think so. But they were so mad at President Obama, they did not care. They wanted somebody in there to establish or to reestablish white supremacy. He takes credit, says he takes credit for the African American unemployment rate going down, which that was already done by President Obama. But us as black people, we still get the bad end of the stick. Who leads in more in poverty? Who leads more in crime? Who leads more in going to prison? Who leads more in death? We still do. And just because I'm talking about these issues does not make me a racist. I'm just pointing out that there are things that is very, very peculiar, that they are allowing this person to carry on like a clown, an idiot. All he does is tweet. All he does is insult people of color. Talks about women, talks about all these other different things, and it's not a leader for everybody. A president is supposed to be a leader for everybody. A president is supposed to be the president of everybody and is supposed to establish democracy in the rest of the world, as well as uh, um, keeping a relationship with our allies. He lied about saying that he has a relationship with North Korean leader Kim Jong Un. He doesn't like you. You know what I'm saying? So why are you making all these things up? He does not like you. And a lot of countries don't like us because of who we have in there. And it's not a reflection of the traditional American values. So America has not always had a, a clean slate. There are more black people that are dying in this country. There are more black men that are going to jail. And it's a criminal justice system that is still geared to keep us in jail. When they liberated us from the plantation, Emancipation Proclamation does not mean that black people were totally free. It just meant the transfer of power to the state and federal governments. And that's what they still want to do. We are last in finances. It is not about economics, even though if you look at the black communities, it is strictly about economics. The playgrounds aren't good. The sidewalks ain't good for the kids. The school systems are shutting down. The kids barely have anything to eat when they go to school. So think about that. Think about that. Do you actually think that this is how a president is supposed to act? A person who tweets, a person who has lied about working with a foreign government, who technically should be impeached for obstruction of justice. He fired James Comey because he wanted him to end the investigation on Michael Flynn. And I truly believe that sometimes the media doesn't get everything right, but I feel like that they're covering the stories that really do matter. So do you actually think that this is how our democratic process is supposed to be carried out? By a buffoon that's in the White House? Listen to it, White House. Black people built the house to keep the white man to be slaves, to still be the master, and we built it. And just because I talk about racism does not make me a racist. Look at your history. America, this is coming from Cobra Immortal. Do you actually think that this is the way that a president should be acting? Insulting people and talking about people's homeland, calling them shitholes? Most rappers don't even talk about these things because they're being controlled by the Illuminati and the secret society. Nobody controls me. And I speak out when I want to and what I want to talk about. So, a message to America. Do you actually think that this is how a president should act? And the people that voted for him, a message for you. Do you think that this is how a president should act? I know black people that voted for him. And I'm asking myself, how can you still keep supporting the enemy? They try to use Christianity. They try to use all these different laws to safeguard and to shield and cover their racist demise. And us as black people, we have a tendency to still show love to our enemies more than to ourselves. It's called self-hate. And I know people that have self-hatred for themselves because of what they look like. On the weekend of one of the greatest minds of Dr. King has said in one of his books, it's not, in a roundabout way, it's not about not being offended by what somebody says. It's the silence of your friends that don't say anything. And that is where it becomes troubling. And this person, Dr. Martin Luther King, fought for everybody. And he did not just fight for black people. He fought for everybody in this country to where they won't be disenfranchised or profiled by what they look like. And for this person that's in the White House right now to sign a bill to honor Dr. King, a person who actually stood for something, a racist, fascist, Russian spy, has the audacity to still speak out Martin Luther King's name in the midst of the vile rhetoric that we heard. The man is turning over in his grave. So my message is to America. Do you think that this is the way that a president should act? I don't think so. To me, he needs to be impeached. He needs to be removed for office, because the longer that you keep him in there, he is dangerous to our democracy. He is dangerous to our relationships that we have with our allies around the world, and he is dangerous to the people of this country. Mr. Trump, you need to go. You need to get out of here. If you so chummy with Russia, take your racist ass back over there and leave this shithole country. Because I'm proud of having people from different backgrounds that are in my family that have came here from the Caribbeans, that have came here to settle. And this is what America was built upon: immigration. Did you not forget that, Mr. Trump? Oh, you claim to be a stable genius, right? A stable genius. Wake up, America. Wake up.